Good evening, and welcome to another night of calm and storytelling at Sleepytime Chronicles. As the world outside quiets and the stars begin their silent vigil, let us retreat into the comforting shadows of Eldoria, a place nestled between the gentle embrace of forest and hill. Tonight, as you settle into the warmth of your bed, let the outside noise fade away, replaced by the soft murmur of ancient tales. Imagine the quaint, cluttered cottage of Morven, our wise alchemist, filled with the glow of candlelight and the scent of mysterious potions. Feel the excitement of discovery, the thrill of unlocking secrets long whispered by the ancients. Allow the story of Morven and his brave companions to envelop you in a tapestry of magic and adventure. Each word will be a step deeper into the enchanted woods. Each breath, a closer look at the wonders hidden in the shadows. So, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the whispers of the ancients carry you to a realm of dreams and discovery. May tonight's tale inspire you and bring peace to your heart as you drift into a serene and restful sleep. Chapter 1: The Alchemist's Brew. In the secluded town of Eldoria, nestled between whispering forests and serene hills, there lived an alchemist named Morven. His home, cluttered with bubbling potions and ancient scrolls, was a sanctuary of secrets and smells. Morven, with his beard as tangled as his thoughts, spent his days deciphering old texts, his eyes gleaming with the promise of undiscovered knowledge. One evening, as twilight draped its violet cloak over the world, Morven stumbled upon a forgotten scroll buried beneath piles of alchemical diagrams. The parchment was fragile, its edges singed by the touch of time, and written upon it were symbols that twisted and turned like the roots of an ancient tree. These were not just any symbols. They were the script of a long-lost language, one that whispered of a time when magic and reality were entwined like lovers in a dance. Morven's hands trembled with excitement. The scroll spoke of a potion, a concoction that could open the minds of its drinkers to the languages of the ancients. Such a potion could unlock secrets of the old world, secrets that lay hidden in ruins and relics that dotted the landscape of Eldoria and beyond. With a resolve as firm as the stones of his alchemist's tower, Morven set to work. Night turned into day and day into night as he mixed herbs that glowed under the moonlight, added essences that sparkled like the stars, and chanted incantations that vibrated with the forgotten voices of the past. After a week of toil, the potion was ready. It simmered in a small cauldron, its surface a mirror showing glimpses of visions and dreams. Morven poured the luminescent liquid into 3 vials. The liquid pulsated softly, like the heart of the earth itself. The next morning, Morven decided to seek out those who could help him delve deeper into the mysteries the potion promised to unveil. He knew his old bones were too weary for the adventures that lay ahead, but he also knew exactly whom to enlist for such an endeavor. Elara, a young warrior of the village, was known for her virtue and bravery. Her spirit was as fierce as the blazes that lit up the night during the midsummer festivals. Tarn, a seasoned explorer who had mapped the northern wilds and sailed beyond the Silver Peaks, hungered for new challenges. And then there was Whisper, a raccoon of unusual intelligence and an even more unusual ability to speak, a gift from a misfired spell long ago. As the sun rose, painting the sky with strokes of gold and pink, Morven packed the vials carefully in a leather pouch. He draped his cloak around his shoulders, feeling its familiar weight comfort him. With a deep breath, he stepped outside, the door of his tower creaking closed behind him. His heart pounded with anticipation as he made his way towards the village square. Today, he thought, the past would start to reveal its secrets, and who knew what wonders or dangers they would uncover together. With each step, the alchemist felt the threads of fate intertwine, drawing him and his soon-to-be companions towards an adventure that would echo through the annals of Eldoria. Indeed, as Morven approached the heart of the village, where the paths of many met, he could already see Elara sharpening her sword by the fountain, her eyes reflecting the sparkles of the rising sun. Nearby, Tarn negotiated with a merchant over a map that was as frayed as the edges of the world. And perched on the rim of the fountain, sipping from a stolen mug of ale, was Whisper, his sharp eyes scanning the morning bustle. Morven's approach went not unnoticed, and as the trio spotted him, their expressions shifted from curiosity to intrigue. Today, the course of their lives would change, steered by the wisdom of a potion brewed from the whispers of the ancients. Elara, Tarn, and Whisper turned towards Morven as he approached, each marked by a curiosity that only the unknown can evoke. Morven's appearance was always a herald of intriguing possibilities, but today there was an unusual spark in his gaze that promised even more. "Good morning to you all," Morven began, his voice a blend of excitement and solemnity. "I come before you today not just as an alchemist, but as a bearer of a new adventure, one that may well change the very fabric of our understanding." Elara sheathed her sword and stepped forward, her presence commanding yet graceful. "Morven, you speak in riddles. What adventure calls us now?" she asked, her voice tinged with both skepticism and intrigue. Morven reached into his pouch and carefully presented the vials, which shimmered with an inner light. This, my dear friends, is a potion that allows the drinker to understand forgotten languages. Languages that were spoken in the times when the earth was young, and magic was as common as the dust beneath our feet. Tarn, who had been examining a worn-out corner of his map, looked up with renewed interest. Languages of the ancients, you say? Imagine the maps we could redraw, the paths we could discover anew. His eyes gleamed with the prospect of uncharted adventures. Whisper, ever the skeptic, twitched his whiskers and sniffed the air around the vials. And what's the catch, old man? There's always a catch with these magical brews. What ghost or beast will chase us this time? Morven chuckled, acknowledging the raccoon's wariness. Ah, Whisper, your caution serves you well. The potion is indeed powerful, and its gifts extraordinary. But it is the knowledge we seek that may prove to be the real danger. The ancients guarded their secrets fiercely, and some of those secrets were never meant to be rediscovered. Alara nodded slowly, absorbing the gravity of Morven's words. You speak of dangers and secrets, Morven, yet I see an opportunity to bring aid to our people, to understand the mysteries that surround us. I will join you on this quest. Tarn clapped his hands together, the decision already made in his heart. And I shall chart our course through peril and shadow, if need be. Whisper rolled his eyes dramatically, but then gave a grudging nod. And I suppose you'll need someone to keep you from walking into obvious traps. Count me in, but let's be clear. I'm here for the excitement and the ale. Morven beamed at them, his heart swelling with pride and hope. Thank you, my friends. Our first step is to learn from the potion itself. We must understand the ancient scroll that led me to this discovery. It hints at a temple, a place where the wisdom of the ancients is etched in stone. They gathered closer as Morven unrolled the ancient scroll on a nearby wooden table, its surface etched with symbols that none could comprehend without the aid of the potion. With a steady hand, Morven uncorked a vial and poured a small measure of the glowing liquid into cups for each of them. To understanding, Morven toasted, raising his cup. To adventure, Tarn added with a robust nod. To hidden truths, Alara concluded, her voice firm and clear. And to not turning into a frog, Whisper muttered before sipping the potion. As the liquid touched their lips, a warmth spread through them, not just of body, but of mind and spirit. The symbols on the scroll began to shimmer and shift, slowly forming into incomprehensible words. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and the voices of the ancients whispered directly to their souls. The adventure had truly begun. As the potion's warmth seeped through them, the ancient script on the scroll began to transform. The symbols, once cryptic and elusive, shifted into clear words that seemed to dance before their eyes, revealing their meanings as if eager to be understood after long centuries of silence. The Temple of Valor, Alara read aloud, her voice echoing slightly in the morning air, thick with anticipation. Guardian of the profound truths, nestled in the heart of the forbidden woods, where shadows dwell and the forgotten gods whisper in the wind. Tarn leaned over the scroll, his finger tracing the paths and landmarks that were described beneath the text. The Forbidden Woods. I've heard tales of such a place, said to be veiled by mists and illusions, designed to lead the unwary astray. It won't be an easy journey. Whisper, now perched on Alara's shoulder, squinted at the scroll. And what of this guardian? Every treasure in every tale has its dragon. What form does ours take? Morven adjusted his spectacles, studying the text. The scroll mentions a sinister phantom, a keeper of the temple. It warns that the phantom allows no seeker to approach the sacred chambers unchallenged. It is bound to protect the secrets it holds at all costs. The gravity of their undertaking began to settle upon them, yet the thrill of adventure sparked in their eyes. Armed with new understanding, they prepared for their departure. Alara gathered supplies and weapons, fitting her sturdy boots and checking the clasps on her leather armor. Tarn collected maps and a sturdy compass, his pack filled with tools for navigation and survival. Whisper, with less to prepare, amused himself by pilfering a few extra provisions from the local market, arguing, one never knows when a bit of extra cheese or a fine pastry might save your life. By the time the sun reached its zenith, casting short shadows upon the village square, they were ready. The villagers, aware of their mission, gathered to see them off, offering blessings and warnings in equal measure. Stay true to your path, an old woman said, as she handed Alara a small woven charm. And remember, not all spirits are to be feared. Some are simply lost. With their farewells said, the trio set out, leaving the familiar paths of Eldoria behind. The road soon gave way to wilder landscapes. The trees grew taller and denser as they approached the edge of the Forbidden Woods. Here, the air was cooler, the light dappled by the thick foliage above. As they entered the woods, the influence of the potion became evident. The chatter of wildlife, usually no more than background noise, transformed into discernible whispers. Alara paused as she caught a snippet of conversation from a pair of squirrels discussing the best route to avoid a sleeping fox. Tarn listened intently to the rustling leaves, which murmured about the weather and the passing of seasons. It seems the potion does more than let us read ancient texts, Alara mused, a sense of wonder in her tone. Whisper chuckled. And here I was, thinking I was the only one who could understand the gossip of the forest critters. Their journey through the forbidden woods was fraught with challenges. Paths seemed to shift inexplicably, and more than once, they found themselves backtracking. But with Tarn's skilled navigation, Alara's keen intuition, and Whisper's unexpected insights from the woodland creatures, they slowly made progress towards the heart of the woods. As dusk approached, the shadows deepened, and an eerie silence began to settle around them. It was here, in the gathering darkness, that they first sensed they were not alone. A chill wind carried a low, haunting moan that seemed to echo from the very depths of the forest. The phantom, Tarn whispered, his eyes scanning the darkening woods. It knows we're here. With hearts both wary and determined, they pressed on, knowing that the secrets of the Temple of Valor were close at hand, as were the inevitable dangers that guarded them. The deeper they ventured into the forbidden woods, the more the environment around them seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. The trees stood like ancient sentinels, their branches intertwining to form a vaulted canopy that dimmed the sunlight to a twilight haze. The air was thick with a mist that swirled at their feet, leading them forward as if beckoning them deeper into its secrets. Each step they took was cautious, the silence around them so profound that even their breathing seemed loud. Tarn, leading the way with the sturdy walking stick, paused frequently to consult his compass and the ancient map, ensuring they weren't being led astray by the wood's deceptive calm. Alara kept her hand on the hilt of her sword, her eyes darting between the shadows. Whisper, riding on her shoulder, whispered tales he had heard from the forest animals. Tales of travelers who entered the woods and were never seen again. Their voices now just whispers on the wind. As night fell, they decided to set up camp, knowing that the darkness would bring greater dangers. They found a small clearing surrounded by thick brambles that offered some protection. Tarn collected firewood, while Alara and Whisper set up a perimeter of small traps and alarms, little contraptions that would give them warning should anything approach. Sitting around the campfire, they shared a sparse meal of dried meat and fruit. The fire crackled, the only sound in the otherwise oppressive silence of the forest. It's said that the sinister phantom is the soul of a guardian who once protected the temple, Morven had told them before they departed. Now, as they sat in the darkness, Elara recalled his words. Bound by ancient magic, the phantom cannot leave the temple, but will do anything within its power to keep intruders at bay. The night passed uneasily. Whisper, with his heightened senses, was the first to feel the change in the air. A cold breeze swept through the camp, carrying with it a faint, melodious hum that seemed both beautiful and sad. "Something's coming," Whisper hissed, his eyes narrowing. Tarn doused the fire swiftly, plunging them into darkness. They huddled close, their eyes adjusting to the lack of light, their senses straining for any sound. It came again, the hum, closer now, and with it, the sound of soft footsteps. Elara gripped her sword. Whisper tightened his grip on her shoulder, and Tarn held a heavy branch defensively. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the presence receded, the hum fading into the distance, leaving behind a heavy silence. They remained awake through the remainder of the night, uneasy and alert. With the dawn, they continued their journey, their nerves frayed, but their determination renewed. The woods seemed less oppressive in the light of day, but the knowledge of what lurked in the shadows weighed heavily on their minds. Finally, after hours of tense travel, the trees began to thin, and the light grew brighter. They stepped out of the forest and found themselves on the edge of a vast clearing. In the center, surrounded by overgrown vegetation, stood the ruins of what must have once been a magnificent temple. Its walls were crumbled and overgrown with ivy, but it still exuded a sense of ancient power. "This is it," Tarn said, his voice low, almost reverent. "The Temple of Valor." They approached cautiously, their eyes scanning for any sign of the phantom. The air around the temple was cooler, and every step seemed to echo against the stones. As they drew closer, the real challenge of their quest became palpable. To enter the temple, uncover its secrets, and face whatever guardian lay in wait within the sacred halls. The adventure they had embarked upon was about to delve into deeper mysteries, the kind whispered about in the hushed tones of fear and awe. The Temple of Valor awaited, silent and imposing, a relic of a bygone era that held the answers they sought and the dangers they feared. As the trio approached the ancient Temple of Valor, its enormity and the intricate carvings that adorned its crumbling walls became increasingly evident. The stone figures, depicting both celestial beings and mortal creatures, seemed to observe their every step, casting long shadows that twisted and flickered in the sun's waning light. The air was cooler here, tinged with the scent of moss and the unyielding musk of stone, long untouched by human hands. As they crossed the threshold, a palpable shift in the atmosphere enveloped them. A dense, heavy quiet that pressed against their ears. Tarn led the way, his footsteps cautious on the uneven ground. His eyes, accustomed to discerning paths where none seemed to exist, were sharply attuned to the subtle signs of ancient traps or hidden doorways. Alara followed closely, her hand never straying far from the pommel of her sword, her senses alert for any sign of danger. Whisper, ever observant, occasionally scampered ahead or lingered behind to inspect nooks and crannies, his small form barely disturbing the dust that lay thick upon the floor. They had barely ventured beyond the main hall when the first sign of the temple's guardian made itself known. A sudden drop in temperature caused their breaths to cloud in the air, and a low, mournful wail echoed through the vast chambers, its source indiscernible yet intensely present. "The phantom," Alara whispered, her voice a mix of awe and apprehension. Her words seemed to hang in the chilled air, and as they faded, the echo of the wail answered back, this time closer, more urgent. Tarn stopped, raising a hand for silence. He closed his eyes, listening to the sounds that filled the temple, trying to discern the direction of the next wail. It was a dangerous moment. The phantom was drawing nearer, aware of their intrusion. Without warning, the shadows around them deepened, coalescing into a form both vague and terrifying. A swirling mass of darkness that seemed to suck in the light around it. The phantom, bound to the temple as its eternal guardian, faced them not as a creature of flesh and blood, but as an entity of malice and sorrow. Alara stepped forward, her bravery undaunted by the supernatural force before them. "We mean no harm," she declared, her voice steady. "We seek only knowledge, the wisdom preserved within these walls." The phantom's response was a gust of wind so powerful it nearly knocked them off their feet. The air vibrated with the power of its anger, and through the howling of the wind, a voice emerged, ancient and fractured by grief. "Many have sought to plunder these sacred halls," it boomed, the walls themselves seeming to tremble with its sorrow. "All have failed, consumed by their greed. What makes you different, children of the fleeting sun?" Tarn spoke next, his voice resonant and sincere. "We come not for gold or glory, but for understanding. The world changes, and we must learn from the past to protect our future." The phantom paused, its swirling shadows flickering uncertainly. Whisper, sensing an opportunity, scurried forward. "And what's it to you anyway? You're stuck here, aren't you? A bit of company, some new tales. It might brighten up your endless watch. A silence fell, during which they could almost hear the phantom considering Whisper's words. Finally, the voice returned, softer now, but still filled with an ancient weariness. Prove your worth. Seek the heartstone of Aelor deep within these walls. Only through its trial will your true intentions be revealed. As the phantom's form dissipated, retreating back into the shadows from which it had emerged, the air lightened slightly, the oppressive chill lifting. They looked at each other, their resolve hardened by the phantom's challenge. Then to the Heartstone we go, Alara said, her voice tinged with determination. Navigating deeper into the temple, they knew that each step was a test, not just of their courage, but of their very spirits. The trial of the Heartstone awaited, and with it, the secrets of the ancients that could either enlighten them or consume them. Chapter 2: Secrets of the Stone. The trio ventured deeper into the heart of the Temple of Valor, guided by the phantom's cryptic instructions and the eerie luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very stones themselves. The walls here were lined with bas-reliefs that depicted scenes of ancient ceremonies and celestial alignments, their details remarkably preserved despite the weight of centuries. As they progressed, the air grew denser, filled with a tangible sense of history that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the earth. The silence was broken only by the soft tread of their feet and the occasional drip of moisture from the stone ceilings, a reminder that the temple was as much a part of the natural world as it was a monument to the supernatural. Tarn, with the cartographer's eye, noted the strategic placement of statues and the orientation of the corridors. These were not merely decorative, he mused aloud. They are celestial markers, aligning with the stars at certain times of the year. This temple is not just a place of worship, but also a grand observatory, a calculator of the cosmos. Alara, ever the warrior, remained vigilant, her senses attuned to any shift in the shadows that might signal the phantom's return. But it was Whisper who discovered the clue that would lead them forward. Scampering along a ledge, he knocked loose a stone that revealed a hidden alcove. Inside, there lay an ancient tablet, its edges worn, but the inscriptions still clear. This must be part of the trial, Whisper called down to his companions, his voice echoing slightly in the hollow chamber. The tablet was inscribed with a riddle, a common way for the ancients to safeguard their treasures. Alara and Tarn joined Whisper to study the tablet. It speaks of a keeper, a guardian, It must mean the Heartstone, Alara concluded, her brow furrowed in thought. The shadows falling at noon, Tarn pondered, looking up at the light filtering down from an opening high above. That would indicate a specific place and time. We need to be at the right spot when the sun is at its zenith. Guided by Tarn's calculations, they positioned themselves in the central chamber of the temple, a vast space where the ceiling opened up to the sky. As the sun climbed higher, its rays began to align with the various apertures and sculptures, creating a complex pattern of light and shadow on the ground. As noon approached, the light converged on a singular point in the center of the chamber, illuminating an unassuming slab of stone that had seemed no different from the rest. But now, under the direct light of the sun, it began to glow with an internal fire, pulsating gently like the beating of a heart. "This is it," Whisper breathed, his voice a mix of awe and excitement. Alara stepped forward, her hand outstretched towards the glowing stone. As her fingers brushed its surface, a warm surge of energy shot through her, and the stone pulsed more vigorously. A deep, resonant hum filled the chamber, and the walls themselves seemed to sing with the voice of the ancients. In that moment, a profound connection was established, a communion of sorts between the trio and the very essence of the temple. Knowledge flooded through them. Images, words, emotions, all conveyed through the Heartstone. They saw the rise and fall of civilizations, the celestial dances charted by the temple's builders, and the sacred rituals that had once breathed life into these stones. As the light faded and the stone's glow dimmed, they were left in awe, forever changed by the secrets they had witnessed. The trial of the Heartstone had proven their worth, and in doing so, had granted them a glimpse into the lost wisdom of the ancients. But the journey was far from over, and the true purpose of their quest was yet to be revealed. Reeling from the revelations imparted by the Heartstone, the trio lingered in the central chamber as shadows began to creep back over the stone floor. The knowledge gained was not just historical, but deeply personal, connecting each of them to the ancient world in ways they had not anticipated. As they gathered their thoughts and prepared to delve deeper into the temple, Whisper's peculiar reaction to the potion they had consumed earlier began to manifest more profoundly. The raccoon had always been quick-witted and keenly observant, but now his ability to communicate extended beyond the human companions by his side. "I hear them, not just the whispers of the past, but the voices of the present," Whisper said, his eyes wide with a mix of wonder and confusion. The creatures of the woods, they speak to me, not in riddles, but plainly, as you do. Elara looked at him, intrigued. "What are they saying?" she asked, her voice low, mindful of the sacred space they occupied. Whisper cocked his head, listening intently. "They speak of the phantom," he replied. "They say it is not just a guardian of stone and secrets, but of life itself." Tarn, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow. "And we should trust the chattering of forest creatures?" Whisper snorted, a grin breaking across his furry face. "These creatures have roamed these woods for generations. Their lore might just be the key to understanding the full scope of what we're dealing with." Deciding to explore Whisper's newfound ability further, they agreed to follow the raccoon's lead. Whisper communicated with the small creatures skittering in the underbrush and the birds fluttering in the rafters, each interaction deepening his understanding of the temple's current place in the natural order. The animals spoke of a balance disrupted, of the phantom's increasing agitation, not out of malice, but out of desperation. They hinted at a hidden element within the temple, something essential that the phantom fiercely protected, not for the ancients, but for the forest itself. Guided by this new perspective, the group navigated through a series of lesser chambers, each decorated with intricate mosaics and frescoes that celebrated the harmony between nature and civilization. The depictions served to reinforce the tales Whisper recounted, illustrating a symbiosis they had previously overlooked. As dusk approached, they found themselves before a grand archway leading to a secluded garden within the temple ruins. This verdant oasis buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the somber stone corridors behind them. Here, the air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and rich, moist earth. In the center of this garden stood an ancient tree, its trunk wide and gnarled, branches stretching upward like open arms. Beneath it, a clear pool mirrored the sky above, its waters calm and seemingly untouched. "The heart of the garden," Whisper murmured, his voice filled with reverence. "The creatures say it's the source of the temple's true power, a convergence of natural energies." They approached the tree, each step careful, each breath held tight. As they drew closer, the air thrummed with a palpable energy, a sense of peace that seemed almost palpable. It was Elara who noticed the faint glow beneath the waters of the pool first. "Look," she whispered, pointing towards the shimmering light that pulsed in time with their own heartbeats. Together, they watched as the glow intensified, revealing the outline of a stone similar in shape and radiance to the hearthstone, yet imbued with a different aura, an aura of life rather than memory. This, Tarn said slowly, must be what the phantom protects. Not a treasure of gold or a weapon of power, but the heart of the land itself. Understanding dawned on them, the pieces of their adventure clicking into place. The phantom was no mere sentinel against intruders. It was a guardian of life, maintaining the balance between the ancient magic of the temple and the natural world that had grown around and within it. As night fell, they settled by the garden, pondering their next move. They had come seeking knowledge and had found a wisdom far greater, a call to protect and preserve, not just to uncover and own. The true test of their journey lay ahead, not in battles of steel or wits, but in the choices they would make to honor the legacy of the ancients and the natural world that thrived because of them. Under the ancient tree in the secluded garden, the trio spent a night unlike any other. The garden, vibrant even under the moon's silver glow, seemed to breathe with life, its air pulsating with an energy that whispered of old magic and older secrets. Here, surrounded by the nurturing power of the temple's heart, they felt a profound connection, not only to the land, but also to each other and the journey they shared. As the first light of dawn touched the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground, Ilara stirred from her rest. The night had been filled with dreams, visions of the temple in its heyday, thrumming with the power of ceremonies and the quiet, diligent worship of the natural world. She awoke with a newfound respect for their mission, a deeper understanding of the guardianship they might soon inherit. Tarn, too, found himself changed by the night. The maps he so loved, the paths he charted, seemed now to be part of a larger, more intricate design. The temple was not just a place on a map, but a node in the network of life's energy, a sacred spot that demanded protection rather than exploitation. Whisper was the most visibly altered. The raccoon had spent much of the night in quiet conversation with the garden's nocturnal inhabitants, learning the lore of the land directly from those who lived it. Now, as the sun rose, he shared his revelations with his companions. "This place," Whisper began, his voice thoughtful, "is a library of life, not just of knowledge. The creatures here, the plants, the very soil, they are all part of a story much bigger than any book could hold." As they prepared to leave the garden, a gentle breeze stirred the air, and with it came a soft, melodious voice, the phantom. Its tone was no longer laced with the cold dread of their first encounter, but carried a warmth akin to the morning sun. You have slept under the tree of life, and you have listened to the heartbeat of the land. What have you learned? The phantom asked, its presence now comforting. A guide rather than a gatekeeper. Ilara stepped forward, her resolve clear in her voice. We have learned that this temple, your charge, is not a tomb of treasures, but a cradle of life. You guard it not for greed, but for great need. The phantom's form coalesced in the morning light, less a shadow now, and more a silhouette of light. And what will you do with this knowledge? It inquired, its voice echoing like wind through leaves. Tarn answered this time, his usual confidence tempered by humility. We seek to continue your guardianship, to protect this place not from the world, but for the world. The phantom hovered, considering their words. Then, slowly, it began to fade, dissipating into the morning air, but its voice lingered. To protect, you must understand fully. Look to the past, learn from its echoes, and prepare to face the test of guardianship. As the phantom vanished completely, the trio felt the weight of their next steps. They needed to delve deeper into the temple's history to understand fully the role they were being asked to undertake. Their exploration took them back into the deeper chambers of the temple, where the walls themselves told the story of the land. Frescoes depicted the changing seasons, the cycles of life, and the rituals that had once kept the land thriving. In each depiction, the heartstone of the garden was central, a symbol of the life it sustained. Whisper, more attuned now to the language of the land, interpreted the stories told by the smallest creatures and the whispering winds. Ilara and Tarn, through the lens of their own expertise, pieced together the practical applications of these rituals, understanding more with each step how the ancients had worked in harmony with the land. By the time they returned to the garden, the sun was high, and the temple seemed alive with the knowledge of its own history. They were ready now to face whatever test the phantom had hinted at, ready to prove themselves worthy guardians of the Temple of Valor's ancient and vital secrets. Upon their return to the central garden, the trio found the atmosphere charged with a palpable expectation. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers, and the energy of the temple seemed to hum with a quiet intensity. They had barely crossed the threshold when the phantom appeared again. Its form now more defined, less threatening, and more ethereal, shimmering with a light that seemed both ancient and alive. You have walked the paths of the past and seen through the eyes of those who tended these grounds. The phantom spoke, its voice resonant with the depth of the earth itself. You stand at the precipice of acceptance, but one final choice remains. Alara stepped forward, her stance resolute. We are prepared to protect this place, to learn its ways and keep its secrets. What is the choice you speak of? The phantom's light flickered like a candle in a gentle wind. To truly guard this sanctuary, you must forgo the world beyond these walls. The knowledge and power here are not for those who live divided between here and the mundane realms. You must choose. Live as guardians, bound to the temple and its lands, or leave now and let the secrets remain hidden, your memories of this place dimmed by the veils of time. The weight of the decision pressed upon them. Tarn, whose life had been a map of journeys and explorations, felt a pang of loss at the thought of no longer roaming the wide world. Alara, driven by a duty to her people and the broader world, struggled with the idea of confinement to a single, though profoundly important, place. Whisper, surprisingly, seemed at peace with the prospect. There's a rightness to this, he mused aloud. A balance. We'd not just be keepers of a place, but stewards of a living legacy. Isn't that a grand adventure in its own right? Tarn nodded slowly. The explorer within him calmed by the raccoon's words. To chart the unexplored corners of ancient wisdom might be the greatest journey yet, he conceded, his voice tinged with a newfound reverence for their potential new role. Alara looked between her companions, her resolve hardening. And what of the world outside? Our absence, would it not be felt? The phantom responded. The world will continue as it always has. But here, you can influence it in subtle, profound ways. The energy that flows from this temple extends far beyond its physical bounds. In guarding it, you guard more than just stone and soil. The choice was stark, the sacrifice real, but the calling was higher than any they had known. After a moment of heavy silence, filled with the weight of their impending decision, Alara spoke for them all. We accept. We will stay, become the new guardians, and dedicate our lives to the protection and understanding of this sacred place. The phantom's glow brightened, an approval that felt warm like the morning sun. Then let the temple accept you as its own. As it spoke these final words, the phantom began to dissolve into the air, its essence scattering like seeds in the wind, leaving behind a sense of completion and continuity. The garden seemed to respond to their decision. The tree in the center of the garden, under which they had spent the night, blossomed suddenly, its flowers releasing a fragrance sweet and potent, a tangible sign of the temple's approval. They spent the rest of the day exploring the boundaries of their new domain, each familiarizing themselves with the specific aspects of the temple that resonated most deeply with their individual talents and interests. Tarn took to the celestial observatory, aligning his knowledge of the stars with the ancient instruments and charts he found there. Alara focused on the historical texts and tactical defenses of the temple, preparing to meet any physical challenges that might threaten their sanctuary. Whisper, ever the mediator, roamed the grounds, speaking with the animals and plants, ensuring that all knew of the new guardians and the new era that was beginning. As the sun set on their first day as guardians, they gathered once again under the ancient tree, not as visitors this time, but as integral parts of the living, breathing entity that was the Temple of Velor. Their adventure had led them here, to a life unexpected, but no less extraordinary. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the trio grew into their roles as the temple's new guardians. Each morning, they woke to the symphony of the forest and the tranquil hum of the temple. Their lives, once marked by quests and wanderings, now revolved around the rhythms and rituals of their sacred charge. Tarn, with his innate connection to the stars and the ancient ways of navigation, found that the temple's celestial observatory was not merely a place to chart the heavens, but a portal through which the energies of the cosmos flowed into the temple grounds. He meticulously restored the ancient instruments, realigning them with the celestial bodies they were meant to track, discovering in the process patterns that had been lost to time. Alara, meanwhile, delved into the temple's vast library of scrolls and tomes. The more she read, the more she understood the magnitude of what they protected. The texts were not just historical records, but manuals of power, detailing rituals that balanced the natural forces of the world. Under her care, the library became a sanctum of knowledge. Each scroll and book, a treasure trove of ancient wisdom, waiting to be revealed. Whisper, ever the communicator, found that his ability to speak with the creatures of the forest was crucial in maintaining the balance the temple guarded. He acted as a liaison between the human and natural worlds, ensuring that any disturbances in the forest were addressed before they could escalate into threats. His days were filled with conversations that ranged from the mundane to the mystical, each interaction weaving a tighter bond between the temple and the land it stood upon. One day, as the autumn leaves began to paint the forest with hues of gold and crimson, a deeper truth about the temple unveiled itself. While exploring a forgotten wing of the observatory, Tarn stumbled upon a hidden chamber. Inside, the walls were lined with mirrors that, when aligned correctly, projected a map of not just the stars, but of ley lines that crisscrossed the land like the veins of the earth. Calling Elara and Whisper to join him, they experimented with the mirrors, adjusting them as the ancient texts instructed. As they did, the map pulsed with light, revealing the temple's true purpose. It was the heart of a network of energy, a node vital to the stability. The revelation was profound. They were not just guarding knowledge or history, but the very essence of balance that kept the natural and supernatural elements of the world in harmony. The temple's location, its construction, even the rituals described in the scrolls, were all designed to maintain this balance. Elara, reflecting on their journey, realized that their roles as guardians were more significant than they had imagined. We are not just keepers of a place, but stewards of a global equilibrium, she said. Awe mingled with a newfound sense of responsibility in her voice. Tarn nodded, his eyes reflecting the glow of the ley line map. And the ancient guardians, they were not just protecting against intruders, but against imbalance itself. Whisper, looking between his two human friends, added, "And we thought this was just about old ghosts and forgotten tales." With the full understanding of their role, the guardians set about enhancing the protective rituals, using the knowledge from the scrolls and the ley line map to strengthen the temple's power. Each ritual performed, every line and star realigned, brought them closer to the ancients who had once walked these halls, whispering their secrets into the stone and sky. As they worked, the land thrived around them, a testament to their diligence and the ancient wisdom they now wielded. The Temple of Valor, once a silent relic, was alive with power and purpose, its secrets unveiled, but its mysteries endless. The trio had found their place in a story much larger than themselves, guardians not just of a temple, but of the world's ancient harmony. The harmony that had begun to flourish under the guardianship of Elara, Tarn, and Whisper was not without its threats. Word of the temple's awakening spread through the forest and beyond, carried by birds and whispering winds. While many rejoiced at the renewal of ancient protections, there were others, darkened by greed and the lust for power, who sought to harness the temple's energies for their own ends. One crisp morning, as frost still clung to the leaves and the air was sharp with the scent of pine, a group of intruders breached the forest's edge. They were mercenaries, led by a sorcerer known only as Kale, whose knowledge of the arcane had led him to the temple's secrets. His aim was clear: to seize the Heartstone and bend its power to his will. Ilara, who had been training in the martial applications of the temple's lore, sensed the disruption in the balance immediately. With Tarn and Whisper at her side, she prepared to defend the temple against the impending assault. As the intruders advanced, the forest itself seemed to rise in defense of the temple. Vines curled around the feet of the unwelcome guests, and the winds howled with a ferocity that spoke of the land's anger. But Kale, armed with dark enchantments, pressed forward, countering the natural defenses with spells of fire and shadow. The battle commenced at the temple's outer edge, where Ilara met the first wave of mercenaries with her sword drawn, her movements guided by the defensive techniques inscribed in the temple's ancient texts. Tarn, using his deep understanding of the land's energies, manipulated the ley lines to create barriers of force that disrupted the attacker's advance. Whisper, agile and quick, darted in and out of the shadows. His efforts focused on disarming the mercenaries and sowing confusion among their ranks. His communication with the forest creatures ensured that no intruder moved unseen or unchallenged. Kale, however, proved a formidable foe. His power appeared to rival the temple's own energies, his spells slicing through the air with lethal precision. As he approached the heart of the temple, the air thickened with the power of the confrontation. The turning point came as Ilara and Kale faced each other in the garden, where the Heartstone pulsed with a serene light. The clash of their wills was palpable, a storm of energy that threatened to tear the very fabric of the temple apart. "Your efforts are futile, Guardian," Kale sneered, his eyes alight with dark ambition. "The power of the Heartstone will be mine." Ilara, her resolve as firm as the ancient stone around them, met his gaze without falter. "This stone is not merely a source of power, but a beacon of balance. You seek to dominate it, but you will only unleash chaos." As they battled, Tarn and Whisper worked together to unravel the source of Kale's power. Whisper, with his keen senses, detected a talisman around the sorcerer's neck, the likely source of his enhanced abilities. With a flick of his nimble paws and a well-timed distraction by Tarn, Whisper managed to snatch the talisman from Kale's grasp, breaking the sorcerer's concentration and weakening his spells. Seizing the moment, Ilara disarmed Kale with a swift, decisive move taught to her by the ancient guardian spirits. With Kyle defeated and his mercenaries scattered, the guardians stood triumphant, their wills proven stronger, and their commitment to the temple reaffirmed. as they returned the talisman to the depths of the temple, sealing it away from those who would misuse its power. They strengthened the protective spells around the temple, ensuring that no such threat would endanger the balance again. In the aftermath, the forest settled back into its rhythm, the breach healed by the guardian's resolve. The Temple of Valor stood serene once more, a testament to the power of balance and the enduring strength of those who stand in its defense. In the weeks that followed the confrontation with Kale and his mercenaries, peace once again settled over the Temple of Valor and its surrounding lands. The Guardians, strengthened by their victory and the trials they had faced, dedicated themselves with renewed fervor to their roles. The temple, a beacon of ancient wisdom and power, thrummed with a tranquil energy, its balance restored. Ilara, Tarn, and Whisper often walked the temple grounds at sunset, discussing their daily findings and the deeper mysteries they continued to unravel. Each discovery, each lesson learned from the ancient texts and from the land itself, deepened their connection to the temple and to each other. One evening, as the sky painted itself with the hues of twilight, the trio gathered under the ancient tree in the central garden, the site of many of their most profound experiences. They were joined by a gathering of woodland creatures, from the smallest field mouse to the stately deer, all drawn by the peaceful power of the temple. It is not just the temple we protect, Ilara observed, her gaze sweeping over the assembled creatures and the glowing heartstone at the garden center. It's all of this, the forests, the creatures, the very air. We're guardians of life itself. Tarn nodded, his eyes reflective. And in protecting it, we've become part of something eternal. The ley lines, the rituals, the cycles of the stars and seasons, we're woven into them now. Threads in a tapestry that stretches back to the dawn of time. Whisper, perched comfortably in the crook of the ancient tree's roots, chuckled softly. From a curious raccoon to a keeper of secrets and a friend, to all these critters, he mused, it's been quite the unexpected journey. As they spoke, a soft glow began to emanate from the heartstone, pulsating gently like the heartbeat of the earth. The light spread, touching each stone, each blade of grass, each creature, weaving them together in a visible manifestation of the temple's power. This light, Tarn said, his voice filled with wonder. It's the legacy of the ancients, a reminder that we're part of a continuous flow of history and magic. It tells us that our actions now, Ilara added, will resonate into the future, just as the past resonates here in the present. The light intensified, bathing them in its warm glow. And in this light, they saw visions of the temple through the ages, its construction, its heyday, the slow decline into obscurity, and its recent awakening. They saw the phantoms of past guardians, their spirits now part of the temple's essence, nodding in approval at the new caretakers. Then the visions shifted, showing glimpses of the future, new challenges, new guardians, and the temple standing steadfast through it all. The message was clear. The Temple of Veilor was eternal, its importance undiminished by the passing of time, and they were now an integral part of its history. As the visions faded and the light dimmed, the trio felt a profound sense of duty and honor. They had been chosen not just to protect, but to perpetuate, to ensure that the wisdom and power of the Temple of Veilor would never again be forgotten. The path we chose is not just for us, Whisper stated, his voice serious, yet filled with pride. It's for all who will come after us, for all who believe in the balance of nature and magic. With the stars beginning to sparkle in the darkening sky above, the guardians made their way back to the temple. The creatures of the forest, their silent witnesses and comrades, dispersed back into the woodlands, each a guardian in their own right. Under the watchful eyes of the ancients and the serene gaze of the stars, Ilara, Tarn, and Whisper continued their nightly patrols, their hearts and actions in harmony with the ancient rhythms of the Temple of Veilor. Their legacy, intertwined with the temple's, would be one of vigilance, wisdom, and an unending commitment to the sacred balance they had sworn to protect.